Hey there, RPGamers. If you were following the site way back in 2009, you might recall that RPGamer's staff was quite enamored with the little Wii game called Little King's Story. In fact, it was so popular it almost won our Game of the Year award for that year. If by some misfortune you didn't get a chance to play it way back then, Xseed Games has just released it on PC, so you now have another opportunity. The PC version is just a port, so this video is not really a review of the game, but more an examination of the changes and options made to the PC version. If you're interested in a full review of the game, a link to my 2009 review is included below. Before we begin looking at the game in earnest, a little bit of housekeeping. My computer has an Intel Core i7 running at 3.6 GHz, with a GeForce GTX 760 graphics card and 16 GB of RAM. Everything you see in this video is recorded using NVIDIA Shadowplay. The graphics settings were all set to high, the resolution was 1080p, and the frame rate was capped at 60 frames per second. The first thing to talk about would be the settings options, which sadly are rather limited. When you load the game, you get a handful of options, but there's really not much to choose from. You can set the texture quality to low or high, the shadow quality to low, medium, or high, and the effect density to low or normal. You can also turn movie skip on or off, VSync on or off, post effect on or off, and you can change the frame limit from 30 frames per second to 60 frames per second, though it does say that 60 frames per second is not recommended. You can also change input settings between keyboard, gamepad for X input, gamepad for direct input, Xbox, and DualShock 4. But for some reason, there is no mouse support at all. There's also language options for English, French, Spanish, German, Italian, and Japanese. Needless to say, these options are extremely limited, and even most indie games offer more customization. Once you get into the game itself, things run pretty smoothly. The graphics are a bit crisper now thanks to the HD resolution, and I didn't notice any severe dips in the frame rate during the 8 hours I played the game. It's worth noting that I have heard reports that some people have experienced severe dips in the frame rate, and it's entirely possible that as the game progresses, even I will, especially as the kingdom expands and more things are going on the screen at once. There were a few control oddities that I thought were a little strange. For starters, the game's camera is inverted by default, and there's no way to change it, which takes a little bit of getting used to. On top of that, there's no in-game method to exit the program. Although you can quit to the title screen, there is no option to exit the game completely. Eventually, I was able to figure out that by hitting escape on the keyboard, you could bring up a dialog box that would let you quit, but as far as I've been able to tell, this is not documented anywhere. It also doesn't matter what kind of control scheme you're using. Even though I was using a controller, I had to use the keyboard in order to exit the game. I also experienced one complete game crash during my 8 hours, but I have no way of knowing how common something like that is going to be. So all in all, this really isn't that great of a port. With such limited customization options, it seems like they didn't really do much more than the bare minimum to get it running on the PC. That said, Little King's Story is such a fantastic game that if you never had the opportunity to play it on the Wii, you'd be foolish to pass up this new opportunity. I'd still recommend playing the Wii version over the PC version, but if you have no other way to play it, don't pass up the chance.
so true.